Israeli soldiers were killed today, 8 Israeli civilians.
But some young Americans are there in the middle of this conflict in the Middle East. Let's go straight to Fox.
At the age of 19, Michael Levin left the comforts of suburban Philadelphia to follow his dream. He joined the IDF, becoming what Israelis call a lone soldier.
On Tuesday, he was killed in action at Ait al-Shab, one of the fiercest battles troops faced in South Lebanon since the war began 3 weeks ago.
Dearest Harriet, Mark, Elisa, and Dara, I write this letter to salute the parents and sisters of the greatest hero I've ever known, Michael Levin, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory. I hope and pray that in these days of sorrow, you are beginning to find comfort in the knowledge that so many hundreds of thousands of people admire and look up to your son and brother Michael as the great Jewish hero he was.
My precious Dara, I am at a loss for words. You have been on my mind and in my prayers. Being Michael's twin has to make this hit you the hardest, and my heart is broken for you. Your family has suffered a horrendous loss, but God has gained a hero in heaven.
This is one of thousands of cards and letters we received from people, Jewish, non-Jewish, from all over the world. To many people, Michael was a role model and a hero. But to us, to our family, he was just our Michael. On February 17th, 1984, we were not only blessed, we were doubly blessed with the birth of Michael and Dara. We now had a beautiful family with Elisa, their older sister, and we had a wonderful family life here, and we considered ourselves very, very fortunate. We were a very close-knit family. We loved each other very much.
It's a rarity that you find a picture of him where he's not having fun and he's not smiling.
Where was I before the day that I first saw your lovely face? Now I see it every day, and I know that I am the luckiest.
We celebrated all those wonderful milestones the families shared together. When Michael and Dara became a bar and bat mitzvah together, the night of the big high school prom, graduation from high school, all those wonderful moments that makes life so special.
People always ask me, where did Michael get this devotion, this love of Israel that he possessed? I think a great deal of it came from my parents, Celia and Lulik Solarsky. They're both Holocaust survivors, and it had a tremendous impact on him. Hearing stories from my father and about my father, I think contributed to Michael's desire to defend the land of Israel for us, for all future generations of Jews, to have a homeland.
My parents, Goldie and Martin Levin, were both born here in Philadelphia. My father was a decorated combat veteran of the Second World War, and Michael was named after him. Michael's Hebrew name was Melech, which means king in Hebrew. Michael, even though he was very proud of that name, always felt a little uncomfortable once he arrived in Israel because he was so humble. He felt uncomfortable being called Melech, the king.
Michael took tremendous pride in our family history, so much so that he would always sign his name, Love, Michael Levin. Never left the Levin out. Didn't matter who he was writing to, whether it was to family or friends.
I think the turning point was probably when he graduated junior high school. He became more religious, and by the time he reached high school, he was looking in one direction and one direction only.
Michael was like a brother to me. We grew up on the same street. We knew each other our entire lives. We went to preschool together, school together, high school together. We went to Camp Ramah together. We went to Israel for the first time together. We pretty much did almost everything together.
I think one of the biggest influences for Michael was when he started to attend Camp Ramah, that it showed you that you could be a person into sports, like all the contemporary things the kids like, but Jewishly, and live a Jewish life. In high school, Michael went to Israel with several of his friends from Council Rock High School, and I really think that that was the changing point for Michael. He learned with Yossi Katz, which was the best of teachers. He was in love with the land, he was in love with the people. It was an experience of a lifetime for Michael. It changed his life forever.
Right now in my classroom at the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, and it's here that Michael and I met for the first time when he came to our program in February 2001 for 2 months. But as you look around on the walls in here, you can see so many of the heroes and heroines who gave us 4,000 years of Jewish history on a silver platter, and Michael was sitting in here taking it all up, soaking it in. I think already in class back then we began to see the sparks of what kind of very special hero he was.
Michael came on Nativ on a very difficult year. It was the midst of the Intifada with all the suicide bombing, and we had that year a very small group. But I think the fact that he came showed his devotion to the state of Israel. I remember the first day he came to me and said, the reason why I came on Nativ was a kind of a compromise with my mother. But I must tell you, after the year of Nativ, I'm going to join the Israeli army. For someone to come at the first day of the program and to declare and say, make a statement, I'm coming back to Israel to serve in the Israeli army, was really an exceptional thing.
He came home from the end of the Nativ program. He went to New York, took care of his papers, came back home and said, my papers are done, I'm making Aliyah to Israel. I'm leaving.
Very funny, and he was always full of pranks, and he was always being silly. But on the other end of the spectrum, when it had to do with the security of Israel and all that stuff, he was so serious. But I guess that's Mike. That was, it was the wool hat and the baseball and the hockey. Shalom uvracha. But Israel was always there.
I've really just never seen somebody just thrive and just love Israel like he did. He had such a passion for it, and no matter what was going on here, he had nothing bad to say about Israel, which was just amazing, because it's very hard to be a new immigrant here by yourself and to deal with Israeli bureaucracy, and everyone complains, and there's nothing, what are you going to do? That's how it is. But Mikey, no matter what, he had that characteristic smile on his face, and he'd say, well, this and this happened, but I'm loving it here.
Well, I met Michael Levin, it was about 6 or 7 months before he went to the army. He called to me sometime in Yom Shishi, and I said, hello, I'm Michael Levin. and people say that if I want to go to the army, you are the man. Listen, Mike, I don't know you. To put your name, I have to meet you. I spoke with all the young kids in the Ulpan who came to learn Hebrew, and I met a young fellow, very small one, with a kippah on his head, and all the time he's smiling and smiling and smiling. Mike, what do you smile all the time? I don't know, but put me in a parachute unit. I'm smiling, but I'm strong. Don't worry. Mike, go to eat some chicken, some cheese, bread. Be fat a little bit. It's okay, I'm strong. I will prove it to you.
Because Michael was physically small in size, many people made the mistake of underestimating him, and that was a big mistake. For Michael was very, very creative and resourceful and determined. I remember the story he told me about how he gained admission into the Army. He had been waiting weeks, even months, for his admission papers, which never came. So he decided to take matters into his own hands, went down to the admissions building, tried to gain entrance through the front door. He was stopped by 2 armed guards, said to him, "Papers." He said, "I have no papers, that's why I'm here." They said, "Papers." He said, "I don't have any. I need to get in to get papers." And they said, "Get away." And he left and realized that he'd have to be a little bit more creative to make this happen. So he walked around the back of the building, noticing that all the windows and doors were barred completely with bars top to bottom. He looked up at the second floor and saw a window open about 3 or 4 inches. So, being at the back of the building, he found a dumpster that he pushed across the way against the building. He climbed on the dumpster, climbed up the bars of the first floor window, pushed the window open, tumbled into the men's room on the second floor of the building, picked himself up, brushed himself off, walked outside, walked downstairs, found the appropriate office, walked in. The man says, "Next." Michael sits down. He says, "Papers." Michael says, "I don't have any papers." He says, "Son, you can't get through the front door of this building unless you have papers." Michael said, "What makes you think I came through the front door?" And he told him the story of how he got in. And the man said to him, "You know, I've been here about 20 years, and all too often young men try to find a way of getting out of the Army." He says, "You're the first person to actually break into this building to get into the Army." He says, "Sit down, we'll fill out your papers."
I'm pretty sure I know exactly how Mikey felt the first time he put on his uniform, because I'm 100% sure it's the same way that I felt the first time that I put my uniform on. It's just a feeling of intense pride, and you're just, I don't know how to explain it other than that, just that you're so proud to be wearing, you know, an Israeli army uniform, that, you know, this is your country, this is the Jewish country for Jewish people, and you feel as though you're doing your part to defend it, and you're in uniform. You know, you have a weapon, and you're in uniform, and your job is to defend the Jewish country and the right of the Jewish country to exist. And just the amount of you know, pride that you have inside when you're walking down the street, and you know, whether it's Israelis looking at your uniform, or whether you're walking through Kikar Tzion and there's, you know, a bunch of tourists who, you know, are kind of staring at you, wow, an Israeli soldier, because you feel like you're something more now. You're not a tourist anymore. You're part of the country. You've come here to do something. You've come here to volunteer, and you know, you're really integrating into the society, and you know, giving your all.
After he walked 90 kilometers to get the red hat, on his back 40 kilo, and he is smiling. I say to myself, what's going on here? Only 90 kilometers, it's nothing, Tzvika. If you believe, it's okay. If you don't believe, it will be very hard. And I believe, that's why it's not so hard for me.
The first jump that they did, Michael weighing 118 pounds, was so light he totally drifted off course. So his second jump, they put weights on him, and he came down with a really hard thud. But, I mean, he was a lightweight. He used to call me and say, "Ma, these guys are ripped." He says, "I'm like nothing next to them."
When we got our Red Berets together at Ammunition Hill, it's just, there's so much history of Israel, history of the Jewish people in Israel proper. And you know, when you finish that 90-kilometer march and you finally get that Red Beret, and you're standing on the, you know, on the same spot where the paratroopers fought so hard and lost so many, and it just kind of really ties in the feeling of, wow, this is our land. This is essentially, this belongs to us. This is our right as Jews to be here and to defend this land and have our people live in it.
Michael became very close friends with Gilad, who was his mifaked, commander, when he was in basic training. There was an incredible bond between the two of them. You could definitely see that in their eyes.
והתבלט בצד איזשהו בחור אמריקאי, לא ידע טוב כל כך לדבר עברית, ואז יש שלב שבו מחלקים לקבוצות, למחלקות. ואז מגיע בחור, מייקל, ואומרים בעצם, אני הייתי המפקד, ואומרים, אוקיי, זה החיילים, תכיר, נעים מאוד, מייקל, ככה וככה. ואז ניגש אליי מייקל ואומר, תגיד, המפקד, המפקד גלעד, ככה הוא היה קורא לי. מה אני אמור לעשות? איפה יושנים? מה הולכים? אני לא רגיל לדברים. אמרתי לו, כאן, זה החדר שלך, זה המקום שלך. הוא אומר לי, אבל מה זה? כולם ילדים כאן. אני בן 21 עוד מעט, ילדים בני 18. אתה היחיד שאולי איכשהו בגיל שלי. אז אמרתי לו, לא, זה בסדר, ככה זה עובד בצבא, ומעכשיו תקרא לי המפקד, וצריך לשמור על ריחוק, אז ככה. עשיתי את הקטע שלי בתור מפקד, הסתובבתי והתפוצצתי מצחוק אחר כך על המבטא ועל הדברים שכל כך מכירים ומאפיינים את מייקל.
We could have been crawling through the mud in basic training all week and sleeping in the rain, and he'd always just have this giant smile on his face. It's great, it's going to be fine, don't worry. Hey, it's some rough times, but we'll get through it.
When Michael was inducted into the Israeli army, Mark and I flew over to be there for him, and I think that that was one of the proudest moments in his entire life.
It's a dream come true, something I've wanted since I was a little kid. It's something no words could describe what it means to me.
He's a good one. I saw him training.
I know.
He's working very, very hard, and I'm proud of him.
From the time he was a little boy, he always said he was going to go to Israel and he wanted to fight in the army. And everybody said when he grows up he'll change his mind. And I said no, he won't. And that was his dream always.
I think God gave him this Zionist neshama.
כל פעם שדיברתי איתו, ראיתי כמה אש יש לו בעיניים כשהוא מדבר על שירות ועל המדינה וכמה זה חשוב וכמה שהוא יודע שאם הוא לא יהיה זה שיהיה כאן, אז לא יהיה מי שיהיה במקומו.
That's the truth, man. No pain, no gain. You don't take the pain, you're not going to go into the best units.
No pain, no gain, Zvika. This sentence, I will never forget it. You say, Zvika, it's going to be very hard, I know. But when it's hard, I feel good.
לא חושבים על לא כאבים פה, לא כאבים פה, לא כאבים, הכל פה ולרוץ קדימה.
החברים שלי, לצאת הברית, בפילדלפיה. כל משפחה שלי שם. אני ממש מתנגד לכם.
לא יישאר בארץ, הוא יהיה לך. אנחנו נמצא לו פה קלה, נחתן אותו. נכון?
נכון.
שיהיה חזק ושימשיך.
תודה.
Your smile, you drive me crazy, in a good way.
The last time Michael came home was for one of our closest friends' daughter's wedding. It was a great visit. I took him to a Broadway show. Mark took him to a Phillies game. And he told his friends when we went back to Israel, they all said he said this was his best visit home. Then everything started in Israel, and he couldn't wait to get back. And he really felt that's where he belonged, and he didn't want to be here anymore.
Michael would see these news reports and he had to get back. He had to fight with his friends and his unit.
He cut his vacation, came to Israel, and they say to him, listen, Mike, we don't need you now. Go to Hebron or stay where you are, because we don't want to take any risk about you.
And it was extremely hard for him to accept the fact that he was still on the outside and that there was still a chance that he might continue to wait a little bit longer before he could go in and rejoin his fellow soldiers from his unit inside.
The next night he called me And he said, you know, Tziki, what they're doing out of me, they're asking me to look after the staff here, and I'm not going up, and you should call somebody to influence them, because sometimes I used to call the commanders and everything if they had problems. I decided to myself that this time I'm not interfering. Whatever happened, happened, but this time I'm not calling anybody.
הוא אמר לי, לא, אני בשורה הראשונה, אני מקדימה תמיד, כלום, אני עצבני מאוד על המפקדים, אני עכשיו רוצה להיכנס, תיקח אותי איתך, עם החיילים. אמרתי לו, בסדר, מייקל, תשמור על עצמך ויהיה בסדר. אנחנו עוד ניפגש בפנים, אתה תראה. ניפגש ויהיה בסדר. ככה, המילה הישראלית, יהיה בסדר.
Mike pushed all the time to go into Lebanon and say, okay, Tzvika, I'm going out, everything is okay, I'm going into. Mike, take care. Don't worry about me. We'll speak after the war.
The killing and capture of Israeli soldiers that prompted this war affected Michael deeply. It was as if they had taken his best friends, Benji, Shlomi, or Gila. To him, there was no difference.
This is probably the last picture of Michael. It was about 2 hours probably before we went in. Well, I remember when we got on the bus before we went in, and actually I asked somebody that was religious if I could borrow his kippah to say Shema Israel, and Michael just took his kippah off his head. He said, "Here, take mine." I looked at his kippah, and this thing's huge, it's bigger than his head. And put it on, said Shema Israel. He looked at me and he said, "All right, you ready now?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." And I gave it back to him, put it on his head.
במהלך התנועה של הכוח של מייקל הם נתקלו ממספר מוקדים, גם ממבנים וגם משטח פתוח. הכוח שלו נלחם ותפס מבנה, נערך בו להגנה, ובמהלך ההיערכות להגנה, לצערנו הרב, צרור של מחבל שנורה מחוץ למבנה, חדר פנימה דרך אחד הפתחים, פגע במייקל ופצע עוד 2 לוחמים שהיו ממש סמוכים אליו.
It was really hard doing it. But we did it for about 20 minutes. And at the end of it, both me and the medic, both were totally exhausted and felt like we were going to pass out. And stopped, gave the other medic a big hug. And told God to take care of Michael.
לאחר שהכוח הגיע לבית של מייקל וטיפל בפצועים וטיפל במוקדי הירי, הכוח חילץ את המחלקה של מייקל, כולל את גופתו של מייקל, והביא אותה לבית של אחת מהמחלקות שהייתה בסמוך. באותו לילה, הכוח מפלוגה אחרת הוציא את כל הפצועים ואת מייקל החוצה לישראל.
אמרתי לעצמי, נפל בחלקי לפנות הרוג, אז ניתן את הכבוד האחרון, ואני אסחב את האלונקה הזאת. ולקחתי את הקשר שלי, אחד המ"כים שלי, מפקדים, ועוד חייל, 4 אנשים מתחת לאלונקה של ההרוג, ואמרתי, אני לא יוצא מכאן. לא יוצא, אני מהרגע הראשון עד הרגע האחרון, אולי זה היה איזו הרגשה או לא יודע מה. אני עושה את זה עד הסוף. עושה את הכבוד האחרון לבחור שאני לא יודע את מי אני סוחב. בסוף המפקד שלי החליט שאנחנו צריכים לסגת, להגיע לגבול, והמשכנו ללכת תחת אש, גם הליכה לא פשוטה, ובסוף עברנו את הגבול, ופצועים פונו והכל בסדר, כולם רגועים, כולם שמחים שעשו את המשימה כמו שצריך, הם פצועים מעבר, ואז יש מין עלייה כזאת, היא גבוהה מאוד, בעלייה לתוך המוצב אחרי הגבול, ניגש אליי אחד המ"כים ואומר לי, שסחב איתי את האלונקה, אומר לי, גלעד, בוא'נה, האלונקה הזאת היא הייתה, מה זה קלה? ההרוג לא שקל כלום, ממש כלום. אמר לו, כן, היה באמת יחסית פשוט. ואז הוא אומר לי, המייקל הזה היה כל כך רזה. ואז אמרתי, מה? מי אמרת? אמר לי, מייקל, מה, לא ידעת שאתה סוחב את מייקל? באותו רגע אני הייתי עמום לגמרי. פשוט לא ידעתי מה להגיד, אמרתי לו, אתה רציני? זה מייקל. הוא היה חייל שלי, אתה יודע. אני לא יכולתי לעצור כמו שקשה לי עכשיו. התחלתי שם לדמוע ולקחו אותי ככה הצידה. והבנתי שסחבתי את מייקל כל הלילה. היה קשה לתפוס מה הלך שם. קשה מאוד.
זאת רוח האור שבא אקשור התמת ואשלח אליך התשמח לשי.
מבחינתי, הר הרצל, מקום הקבורה של מייקל, זיכרונו לברכה, מקום של גיבורים, מקום שבו נחים את מנוחתם כל האנשים שעשו והקריבו למען המדינה, ראשי ממשלות, מפקדים גדולים, ומייקל לוין. אני לא רואה שום הבדל, מקום שמסמל הקרבה ומסמל אמת, ואין מקום אחר שמייקל ינוח את משכבו שם. מסמל את כל מה שהוא היה. את ההקרבה, את השליחות הכל כך גדולה שהייתה לו. את הסמל של לעלות לארץ, להתנדב. זה אומר הכל. אומר הכל.
When we pulled up to the cemetery, my first reaction was that of disappointment because I saw hundreds and hundreds of people outside the cemetery and cars and taxis everywhere. And my very first thought was, great, there must be 5, 10, who knows how many, 15 funerals going on at one time. It's going to be crazy in there. Little did we know that everyone that was there for Michael. The crowd was huge. Could have been in the thousands. That there were trucks mounted with loudspeakers that went through the streets of Jerusalem that day, saying that a holy man from America, a soldier in the IDF, had fallen in battle and was being buried that day. And people came from all over the country. Secular, Reformed, Orthodox, Black Hatters. It was a fast day in Israel for the religious, Tisha B'Av. People walked for hours and hours, fasted all day, and walked halfway across the city just to be there. For some reason, Michael's story, the ideals that he stood for, his sacrifice, captured the hearts and the minds of people all over the country. And they all wanted to be there for us that day.
Today, Tisha B'Av, here in Yerushalayim, the place where our hearts have been breaking throughout Jewish history. Our hearts are breaking once again. We are devastated by Michael's loss, but we are profoundly proud of his courage and his determination to serve the IDF with every fiber of his being.
Dear Michael, brave fighter, be a melitz yosher, a heavenly advocate for Am Yisrael at this difficult time. I, Brigadier General Ephraim Lapid, who served 30 years in the Israeli Defense Forces, salute to you, First Corporal Michael Levin.
I remember after we came back from the funeral, and we went back to the base, and we were going through all of our equipment to make sure what's missing and what we need to make up, and you know, cartridges and grenades. And we were going through Michael's vest, and we opened up one of his side pockets, and in there was an Israeli flag. And we all looked at each other, and it's like, unbelievable. And it's no more Zionism than that. I got shivers through my spine.
mother wants to keep her child close to her. Michael had told me before he went back to Israel that if anything should happen, that he wanted to be buried in Har Herzl, the equivalent of our Arlington. And it was a difficult decision, but not for very long. How could we not honor his last wishes? And that's where he belonged. That's where his heart and soul was. That was home to Michael. That had to be his final resting place. This kippah, knowing that this is what Michael wore into battle when he fell, this is like having a part of Michael and holding him.
פעם אמרתי שאפשר לקרוא את הבן אדם על פי העיניים שלו, לראות אם הוא... רק אם אני מסתכל לבן אדם בעיניים, אני יכול לראות אם הוא באמת מתכוון למה שהוא אומר. רק אז אני יודע שהוא מתכוון לדברים. זה משהו ש... כמו שאמרתי, אף פעם לא אשכח כשהייתי עומד מול מייקל, גם כשהייתי צועק עליו, וגם כשהייתי צוחק איתו. אז הניצות והעיניים נפתחות. מסתכלות, מפקד גלעד. כן. זהו, לא פשוט. לא פשוט. מעבר אני גאה בך על מה שעשית. למדתי ממך המון. כמו שאמרתי לו תמיד. כמו חבר, כמו אח, כמו משפחה. אתה ישן לידי, גם בבית, גם בצבא. תמיד.
People come up to me all the time and they ask me about the wings that I'm wearing, and because I have them on all the time. At the end of Michael's funeral, people were coming up to us just to give us hugs and kisses and express their condolences. One of the soldiers in Michael's unit, and I really wish I remembered who, took off his wings and gave it to us to wear and told us we were part of the paratrooper family now. And I wear them every day.
Harry and I decided that we had to do something to help preserve his memory, the ideals that he stood for, and the sacrifice that he made. We decided to start the Michael Levin Memorial Fund for Israel, a fund that would help other lone soldiers like him, help them to make their lives a little bit easier, to contribute in any way we could, emotionally, spiritually, materialistically. They've gone to a country where they have no real support system. And this fund will go a long way in making that difficult transition for them just a little bit easier.
One of Michael's greatest heroes and one of the biggest inspirations in his life was Yonatan Netanyahu. Yoni Netanyahu was the leader of the raid on Entebbe in 1976, and he was the only soldier from Israel who died leading that raid. And I think that Michael gained a lot of inspiration and pride from Yoni Netanyahu for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel.
I'm sure that Yoni had a profound influence on him from everything that I know. And I can understand why. He couldn't just say, well, I believe one thing, but I'll do another. He wanted to have his convictions and his actions tally with one another. I respect that. I've obviously seen it elsewhere in my own family, but I think that this is ultimately the lifeline of our people. There is no Jewish people without the state of Israel. There is no state of Israel without people who are willing to defend it, and if necessary, to die for it. This is ultimately what determines that we're here. Otherwise, if we had no people like Michael, we wouldn't be here.
Michael was a religious Zionist who believed in the promise of the prophets. He also believed that the history of world Jewry would be played out in Israel, not the United States, and he wanted to be a part of it all. But most important, he felt that Israel needed to be defended against the radical terrorists that threatened its destruction. That's why he never considered it a duty or an obligation to serve in the IDF, but an honor to defend his beloved Israel.
The day before Michael died, Michael gave me a phone call. I did not get to listen to it until the morning after he died, and I would like to share that message with you.
First, saved voice message.
Hey there, what's up? It's your brother. Anyways, I'm just calling because I'm in the middle of a war, and it's crazy as hell, and I just wanted to let you know that I do love you, and if that's the anything should happen to me, that that I love you and miss you, and I wish you all the best, and so that's really it. So I love you, miss you, I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you hopefully very soon. Bye.
End of message. This message.
It's not just to cry. I feel that I lost one of my child. He was my child. We lost, all of us. All the world lost a nice son. He was really son. He was amazing. And he was a hero. He was American citizen, American Israeli citizen, and we lost him. We just lost him. He could be something amazing in Israel, but so young, 22.
Michael may have only lived 22 years, but in his 22 years, he did more than most of us accomplish in an entire lifetime. Michael always said he was doing exactly what he wanted to do, and he was exactly where he wanted to be. There were no regrets. The best way to honor our son's memory is to learn about what he lived for, not how he died, what his beliefs were. Go to Israel. Take the time to learn about history, Jewish history, about Israel, about Jewish heroes, about your own background. Doing things like this will honor our son's memory.
Mike is definitely, oh yeah, we could definitely say that Mike is our hero. Definitely a hero for us. He protected me. He protected my baby. Protected everybody who lives here.
One of the great Zionist poets was Shaul Chernyakhovsky, whose poetry has touched so many with his passion and love of Israel. And in one of the poems, Omrim Yeshna Eretz, they say that there is a land. There are a couple of lines that touch me because I believe that they were talking about Michael. The poem says in the middle here, Shalom Lacha Akiva, Shalom Lacha Rabbi, Efo Hem HaKdoshim, Efo HaMakabi, Onelo Akiva, Onelo Arabi, Kol Yisrael Kdoshim, Ata HaMakabi. Peace to you, Rabbi Akiva. Peace to you, Rabbi. Where are the saints? Where is the Maccabee? Answers him Akiva. Answers him the Rabbi. All of Israel is sainted. You are the Maccabee. These are words that really talking about Michael. Because Jewish history was not just made by all the famous people that we know about. Jewish history was made by people like Michael, who gave their heart and soul for Israel. And Michael wanted to be a Maccabee. And in the end, he died becoming that hero.
They say there is a land drenched in sun. Where is that land? Where is that sun? Where is that sun? Where is my son? My son is a hero in heaven.
proud of